and it has been going strong. And at that time, I thought I don't know, but even now I figure out I still don't know. It is so vast and so in depth. So we are glad to have this session after so many years. And this time, last 3 years, Meenakshi has basically drove this platform because I moved to Florida and she was able to do it better than anybody else. So now I'll request Brahmachari ji Surya to chant a mantra to begin this course.
ओम गणपति प्रार्थना। ओम शुक्लां वरदरं विष्णुं शशिवर्णं चतुर्भुजं प्रसन्नवदनं ध्यायेत् सर्वविघ्नोपशान्तये। ओम गणानां त्वा गणपतिगुं हवामहे कविं कवीनामुपमश्रवस्तमं ज्येष्ठराजं ब्रह्मणां ब्रह्मणस्पत आनशृण्वन्नोतिभिः सीदसादनम्। ओम श्री महागणपतये नमः। सरस्वती प्रार्थना। प्रणो देवी सरस्वती वाजेभिर्वाजिनीवती धीनामवित्र्यवतु। सरस्वती नमस्तुभ्यं वरदे कामरूपिणी विद्यारंभं करिष्यामि सिद्धिर्भवतु मे सदा। गुरु वंदना। प्रेयर्स टू द गुरु lineage. गुरुर् ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णुः गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरः गुरुर् साक्षात् परं ब्रह्म तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः. Prayers to Dakshinamurti Bhagavan, the main deity here. Nidhaye sarva vidyanam vishaje bhavaroginam gurave sarva lokanam Dakshinamurtaye namah. Prayers to Navagraha, 9 planets. Vedic Sukta, Navagraha Sukta. Om asatye narajasa vartamano niveshayan namritam martyancha hiranyayena savitara tena devo yati bhuvana vipashyanne agnin dhutam vranimahe hotaram vishvavedasam asya yajnasya sukratum yeshamishe pashupatih pashunam chatushpada mutachadvipada nishkritoyam jagniyam bhagametu rayasposha yajamanasya santu Adhidevata pratyadidevata sahitaya Suryaya namaha Apyaya swasametude vishvatas soma vrishniyam Bhavavajasya sangate Apsume somo abravidantar vishvani beshajam Agnincha vishvashambhu amapascha vishvabeshajihi Gauri mimaya sarilani takshadyekapadi dvipadi sa chatushpadi Ashtapadi Navapadi Babhuvushi Sahasra Akshara Parame Vyoman Adidevata Pratyadidevata Sahitaya Chandraya Namaha Agnir Murdha Divah Kakuh Pati Prithivya Ayam Apagam Retagam Sijinvati Siyona Prithivibavan Rakshara Niveshani Yachana Sharma Saprata Kshetrasya Patina Vajagum Hitene Vajayamasi Ghamashvam Poshamitma Sanomrido Tridrishe Adidevata Pratyadidevata Sahitaya Angarakaya Namaha Udbuddhya Swagne Prajagrikshena Mishta Purte Shagum Sujeta Mayancha Punah Kranvagitswa Pitaranjuvana Manvatagum Si Twayitantu Metam Idam Vishnur Vichakrame Tredhanida Depadam Samudamasyapam Sure Vishnu Raratamasi Vishnu O Prishtamasi Vishnu Snaptre Esto Vishnu Siyurasi Vishnu or Dhruvamasi Vaishnavamasi Vishnavetva Adhidevata Pratyadidevata Sahitaya Buddhaya Namaha Bruhaspate Adiyadaryo Aryaad Dvimadvibhati Kratumajjaneshu Yadhida Yachavasarta Prajatadasma Sudravinandehi Chitram Indra Marutva Ihapa Yasomam Yatasharyate Abhibasutasya तव प्रणीति तव शूरशर्मन्नाविवासन्ति तव यस्य यज्ञाः ब्रह्मजज्ञानं प्रथमं पुरस्ताद्विषीमतः सुरुचो वेन आवह स बुधनिया उपमा अस्य विश्या सतश्च योनि मासतश्च विवह अधिदेवता प्रत्यधिदेवता सहिताय बृहस्पतये नमः प्रवशुक्राय भानवे भरद्वगुं भव्यं मतिं चाग्नये सुपूतं यो दैव्यानि मानुषा जनुगुष्यन्तर्विश्वानि विद्मना जिगाति इंद्राणी मासुनारुष सुपत्नी महमश्रवं नह्यस्य अपरंचन जरसा मरते पतिः इंद्रं वो विश्वतस्परि हवामहे जने एभ्यः अस्माकमस्तु केवलः अधिदेवता प्रत्यधिदेवता सहिताय शुक्राय नमः शन्नो देवीरभिष्टय आपो भवन्तु पीतये शय्योरभिस्रवन्तु नः प्रजापते नत्वदेतान्यन्यो विश्वा जातानि परिता बभूव यत्कामास्ते जुगुमस्तन्नो अस्तु वयग्स्याम पतयोरयीणाम् इमं यमः प्रस्तरमागिसीदाङ्गिरोभिः पितृभिः संविधानः आत्वा मन्त्र कविशस्त्वावहन् त्वेनाराजन हविषामादयस्व अधिदेवता प्रत्यधिदेवता सहिताय शनैश्चराय नमः कया नश्चित्र आभुवदूति सदा वृदस्तका कया सचिष्टया वृता आयङ्गौ स्पृष्णिरक्रमी दशनन् मातरं पुनः पितरञ्च प्रयन्सुवः यत्ते देवी निरृतिराबबन्धगामत्किवा स्ववितत्यम् इवन्ते तद्विश्याम्यायुषो न मद्या पितुमुद्दि प्रमुक्तः अधिदेवता प्रत्यधिदेवता सहिताय राहवे नमः केतुं कृण्वन्न केतवे पेशो मर्या अपेक्षसे समुषद्भिरजायताः ब्रह्मा देवानां पदविः कवीनां ऋषिर्विप्राणां महिषो मृगाणां श्योना गृद्रो नागुस्वति तिर्वना नागुं सोमः पवित्रमर्ते तिरेबन् सचित्र चित्रं चितयन्तमस्मै चित्रक्षत्र चित्ततमं वयोदां चन्द्रं रयिं पुरवीरं बृहन्तं चन्द्र चन्द्राभिर्कृणते युवस्व अधिदेवता प्रत्यधिदेवता सहिताय केतुभ्यो नमः ओम आदित्याय च सोमाय मंगलाय बुधाय च गुरुशुक्र शनैश्च राहवे केतवे नमो नमः ओम मंगलम भगवान विष्णुः मंगलम गरुडध्वजः मंगलम पुंडरीकाक्षो मंगलायतनो हरिः सर्वमंगलमांगल्यं शिवे सर्वार्थसाधिते शरण्ये त्र्यंबके गौरी नारायणि नमोस्तुते नारायणि नमोस्तुते शांति शांति शांति।
Yeah, I will request Dr. Charak to say a few words. You saw it or not? Okay. Thank you so much, and I welcome you all. I'm not used to this sort of introduction of speech, but the little thing that I would like to say before we start this grand session is that Indian philosophy, Indian concept considers that there is a eternal power which permeates everything and which causes this creation, and all these functions depend on that particular power, and we call that as Brahma. And from Brahma comes out everything. Now that Brahma has become manifest into so many things, and we presume that Brahma, which is the universal soul, that also creates the human beings and all the other creation. And in the living beings, it is present in the form of
the individual soul. So individual soul is actually the part or representation of the universal soul. And this individual soul is sheathed by our karmas and karma phalas, so that it is imprisoned in this physical body. And our eventual purpose is to remove those sheets, to release this individual soul, so that it ultimately merges with the universal soul. So the various actions, the various things that are prescribed according to the Vedantic concept, they all aim to follow principles which lead to human evolution. And human evolution is not possible in one incarnation. So in one incarnation, you cannot, get your soul released and then mix with the universal soul. So it takes incarnations, many births. So the concept of birth and rebirth is inherent in the Indian philosophy. Now, when you take birth, and when we use astrology there, astrology gives you some indication about your present birth, and it gives you an indication of your weaknesses and your strengths. Your horoscope is basically an indication of your limitations. You can go only this far and not further. So the horoscope or astrology that we use, Vedic astrology particularly, is meant to guide you in a manner where you tend to evolve, so that you are free from the karma phala, which is the binding factor. And the one branch of astrology, Vedic astrology, which particularly emphasizes on this aspect, is the muhurta. Muhurta means that you are born with certain limitations, but within those limitations, you aim to do your best. So even with your limitations, you want to do your best, use your free will and improve upon yourself. So this is the basic concept of astrology. And it is not merely to see a horoscope, make some wonderful predictions, and then enjoy the praise that you get. But the purpose is the human evolution. And I hope and pray and expect from everybody and all of us that we join together in this pursuit, so that we can guide people towards their higher goal and benefit ourselves also and benefit others also. Thank you so much.
I think from that class of July 95, Mark is here, the first class which we started. Would you like to say something? You were in the first class. Ron, you were also there, July 95, or were you attending the class in July 95? Yeah. So there are two people from 28 years back. Mark, would you like to say something? Of course, Dr. Charak was the teacher, but the student.
So it seems like something of a lifetime ago, but yes, it was way back in, I thought it was June of 1995 that I first had my experience of coming here. And it was a truly remarkable experience. I remember there was a gentleman by the name of Yogi Karve that was brought here by the other people like Ken Rao and Dr. Charak, who had the ability to cognize individuals, thank you, cognize individuals' birth times and be able to see exactly the moment of their birth and actually be able to see in his mind's eye the birth chart. And maybe I would just briefly recount my own experience with that. So I was brought into the room and this very diminutive man was sitting there, and He didn't actually speak English. We were doing this through a translator. And he just looked at me and he said, Kanya Lagna, meaning Virgo rising, right? And then he started giving all the positions of my planets in my chart. Of course, I consider this to be quite amazing. And then he mentioned my day, month, year of birth. And then the most amazing thing was that he looked at me and said, 4:48 p.m., which was the exact time that was given on my birth certificate. So it was quite a remarkable experience. And then he actually went on to make some predictions that came out. So this was my first experience at the Arsha Vidya Gurukulam. And then, of course, the wonderful astrological presentations that took place there. I had just been a student for a couple of years at that time. And here I am now, came here as a student and now coming back as a teacher, which I feel very fortunate about. So that's what I have to say.
Yeah, this is about other Karve Guruji, who came here in the same time. He was one of the, I think, seventh wonders of the world, who came here in 95. Swamiji didn't know his time of birth, Swami Dayananda. So for Swami's, Karveji is like even faster. So we went in the chalet where the classes were. And it was 5 o'clock in the evening. So Swamiji said Karveji said to him, August 15, 1930. He said, yeah, Rakesh Sharma must have told you. He says, no. He says, no. How can you know my date of birth? He says, no, 1:53 in the morning. He says, Rakesh Sharma says 2:36. So what is this difference? He says, no, you have a Taurus Lagna, not Gemini. So Swamiji knows a little bit of astrology. He started giving all the planetary position. And then he said, you had left your guru, isn't it? Yes, I said his guru was Swami Chinmayananda. He says, no, before that. So that was 1955. Swamiji was 25 when he joined Swami Chinmayananda. He says, no, before that, you left another guru. Then Swamiji says, how do you know? He says, no, mere ko dikhta hai. You can see it. So he says, yeah, in 1952, I joined Jiddu Krishnamurti, if you know J. Krishnamurti, who has a foundation in Ohio. Yeah, I had joined him, but we had too many arguments and so he left. So then Karveji said, but how do you know these? He says, I don't know. I got it from God. My daughter also has it. My son also has it. He says, you can call them. So it was 2:30 in the morning in India. Called. So sorry. So the is working? Yeah, so the Swamiji called Pinky. The daughter was young at that time. Says, so Swamiji, the pranam, he says, yes. August 15, 1930, 1:52 in the morning. He says, how do you know? He says, I don't know how I see. Then son Sandeep was called. He was fast asleep. They woke him up. And then Swamiji, pranam, August 15, 1930, 1:52 in the morning. Swami says, how do you know all this? He says, I don't know, meaning when Guruji knows, then everybody knows. So then the biggest prediction which I saw about him was one of my friend who was a very famous finance professor in Chicago, did PhD from Columbia. First book on futures he wrote. Was a genius. 86, I went to read his palm because he was such a great. IIM Ahmedabad is one of the top institute in India, and he was the topper. He was topper in Bombay. So I said he should have something interesting. So 86 to 96, every year I thought he will get married. He will get married. After 10 years in a row, he says, "You don't know. At least you know that you do not know." I said, "Yeah, but let us see. Karveji is coming in 96. He went there to Chicago. So he made a horoscope. Yeah. So he asked me to see where is Jupiter, Saturn. And then I said, this is February 26th, 1958. So he says, is it? So I calculated the time based on, is it 4:08 in the evening? I said, yes. So he says, this is his wife. So I asked my friend, do you know anybody like that? He says, this guy is mad. I don't even know anybody like that. This just start talking about somebody who is my wife. I said, I don't even know anybody like that. So then after few months, he went to India, advertised, 500 people applied. 10 he saw, and one girl was February 26, 59. So he said, oh, 59. So she said, why? He said, no, somebody told me 58. So she said, no, other than me and my mother, my real date of birth is not known. Only this official date is 59. How did you get this? Some private investigator to find out about me? He says, no, this Karveji. She says, I don't believe it. Who can find out my date of birth and also time, 4:08 in the afternoon, 1 year before? So he says Karveji, and Karveji, of course, was in Bombay. He went and to her house and said, yes, this is the girl who you will marry. He was stunned. And then her mother, he says, oh, you were born in 1926? He says, yes. Oh, your son got divorced, isn't it? He said, yes, that girl was not good. He says, yes, I knew it. And this is in Australia. That son immediately called home that how the hell he knows everything about me. So Karveji is like Karveji. It's hard to believe that there are people like that, but he's still going to be 93 in July. And now he has a temple in Pune. So anyway, he doesn't do this on daily basis, but it's interesting. Okay, anybody will have a class at 9? Yeah. Okay. Okay. Om Purnamataha Purnamidam Purnata Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishite.
that on the whole day, right?
Good morning, everybody. We are about to embark on a journey. Hello. I said we are about to embark on a journey which would probably change the courses of our lives. And the person who's taking you on this journey is Dr. K.S. Charak. I have been given the pleasant task of introducing him. Firstly, I don't see a face here who doesn't know him. Yet, those who do not know the bright sides of his life and the dark sides of his life, which he has forbidden me to speak about, let me tell you a few facts of his life. As Rakesh said earlier, he started coming to the Gurukul in 93, 95, 94, 95, and since then he has been more or less regular in coming to the Gurukul and joining this Jyotish conference, which lately Rakesh has become fond of calling a Jyotish Mela, which is a very appropriate term because Mela in Hindi means a congregation of people of all kinds, In our context, we can say a congregation of people who are just simply interested in astrology and want to hear a few words about astrology. Then we have some junior students, the middle level students, the advanced level students, the professional astrologers who have spent years and years on astrology, and they may be practicing for profit or for charity the use of astrology. Dr. Charak, well, the name itself starts from a doctor, but let me tell you, he has a wife and they have 3 children, but he also has 2 girlfriends. Well, this is not the dark side I was talking about. His first girlfriend is surgery. He has head departments in Delhi as the head of the surgery department for most of his professional life, and only lately he has retired from that duty. The second wife, of which you are more familiar with, is astrology. I once asked him, why don't you choose between the 2? Well, the third one is not changeable, so there was no question about that. He said, no, he can't leave any of them. But well, age and circumstances have forced him to choose astrology. And during the last 1 or 2 years, he has been far more prolific producer of astrological material. And in that process, he's written 2 or maybe 3 books, very valuable books. The latest one to his credit is a book called The Art of Prashna, whose official author is Shri J.N. Sharma, but it has been edited, revamped, modified, and everything by Dr. Charak, which he has produced under his own publication. I hope he will be giving one of the lectures on the Prashna techniques, so you will probably get introduced to that book also. Besides these 2-3 books which have come out during the last months, he has also written about 12 to 15 books. Most of those books are on fundamentals of astrology. The very first book he wrote was on Varshfal. Varshfal is a topic that is being taken up today by Shri V.P. Goyal after the lecture by K.S. Charak. I started with saying the first name is Doctor, the second name is Krishna. So it's a great combination of a healer Krishna. In Indian mythology, Krishna is supposed to be a great healer, and the most prominent healing he did was to Arjuna, his disciple and a friend and a relative. So here we have a great combination of an astrologer, doctor, and a healer. Astrology is nothing if it doesn't heal people physically, mentally, spiritually. Today's topic is more connected with the spiritual healing rather than the physical healing. But then the spirit and physical are so closely connected with each other that you really can't separate them. If you heal one, the other one gets healed automatically. But it starts from the spiritual and mental, and then goes down to or goes up to the physical stuff. Besides all these things, he's a very, very busy man. And one other thing that keeps him occupied is he runs a trust where he has been offering medical aid, which includes surgery, of course, and then a lot of other OPD thing, where every year 4 or 5 camps are held of 1 week each. And there his team, which comes voluntarily, nothing is paid to them. They have to take their own holidays from their institutions and then join him. And there have been more than 50 such camps during the last 13 years, 13, 14 years. And thousands of patients have been treated through surgery and through medicine. So that's a great task. That's a great humanitarian task he has undertaken for the last more than 1 decade. And now his ambition is to build a hospital for the same purpose at a specific place, so the poor and needy can come without the consideration of money and get treated for practically any disease and as serious as where surgery is required. So he's in 3 boats: surgery, astrology, and of course, the wife, that is wife and children. If anything dark that I can tell about him, though he has forbidden me to say so, he's such a disciplined soul that others find it difficult to match with. He's so hardworking that he has arrived here at the Gurukul last night at 10. And today, before 10, even before he has taken care of his jet lag, he is ready to present one of the most wonderful lectures that you have ever heard on the topic karma and astrology. I am as eager to hear about it as all of you, because I suspect it is going to correct some of my own impressions about the subject. And it, of course, would have the backing of the Hindu mythology, Hindu thought, and the Hindu culture. So the concept of karma and the karma phala that essentially comes from the Hindu thought would be forming sort of a basis of his presentation. And then we would all be delighted with the insights that he can provide to us, that how to relate that karma and the karma phala with astrology. Because essentially all astrologers must learn this. Where is karma in the horoscope? Where is the destiny in the horoscope? Where is the prarabdha in the horoscope? And where is the Purushartha in it? Which houses, which planets, which signs, this, that. I'm expecting that. I don't know if he's covering it all here or not. That would be a wonderful topic. So with that little introduction, I would invite Dr. Charak to present this wonderful paper in front of you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Vinay. And you all understand now that if there is any lapse in my talk, you can blame it on my jet lag.
Yeah.
Right, the subject is astrology, destiny, and karma. And most of you know a lot about this. You will all have your own concepts about it. I'll see if I can add something to that, or maybe explain a few things in my own way. And eventually, I hope that it turns out to be useful. Can we go next? Saurabh? You see, astrology we use to reveal our destiny. I'm going to get you the notes. Actually, I didn't have time to print them, so somebody is doing that, and these slides will be they'll be printed and given to you. We all know that we are born with a certain destiny, and we are using astrology to reveal that destiny. And destiny is something which doesn't just come out of nothing, because in this world where the cause and effect are the predominant principle, there has to be a cause to produce your destiny. And destiny is produced by karma. Your karma is manufactured destiny. So that is the basic principle of all Hindu thought. And then if you build on this, then many more things will become clear. So destiny is manufactured by karma, and any action that you undertake, anything that you do, anything that produces an effect, that is a karma. Whether you have a thought, whether you have seen something, whether you are doing something physically, whether you are undertaking any spiritual function, all these are your karmas, and then they generate a matching effect. So karmas are the cause, and then they produce an effect. Saurabh, next please. Now, what happens is that when you generate a cause, an effect is produced, and this effect acts as another cause for another effect. So this cycle goes on. You do something, some result comes out, that result itself acts as a cause, and that generates another effect. And we go on going through this cycle, and this world goes on. Next one. Manifest universe is subject to the law of karma. Now, manifest universe is the one that we know of, that we can see, that we can perceive. We don't know whether there are any other existences which we don't perceive, which are beyond manifestation. There must be some which we can't perceive. That is a different thing, and we don't know whether the law of karma operates there or not. But in this manifest universe, the law of karma is predominant, and the law of karma is that you do something and there is an effect that is produced. We call that matching effect as karma phala. Phala is fruit. So fruit of your action, the result of your action, that is generated by karma. That is the basis of this law. If you are doing any karma, good or bad, a matching result is produced, and this result you have to realize, you have to bear it, you have to enjoy it, you have to suffer it. So whatever karma you do, good or bad, that will not be neutralized without realizing its fruits, because karma phal is, you can't destroy it, like you can't destroy any matter. Similarly, you can't destroy any karma phal. And this karma phal, or the effect of karma, depends on many things. Its manifestation depends on many things, and the time that it will manifest, that also varies. You're doing some karma now, and it is producing a certain effect. That may produce effect immediately. You are sowing seeds, you are reaping the harvest after 6 months. That karma is giving you results after 6 months. But then the result may take so long that it does not happen during this lifetime of yours. So what will happen? So it will go on to the next lifetime. So you can have the experience of your karma phal in subsequent lifetimes also. In fact, that forms the basis of the concept of reincarnation, because we believe that anything that we do that has to generate an effect, that effect has to be enjoyed or suffered by the individual, and its timing will vary according to the nature of the karma that you have generated. Next, please. Now, this is the definition of one who does the right karma. The karma is done by the individual, and we call him as Purush. Purush literally means a man or a human being. And Purush does the karma, and then what he does is known as Purushartha, the work of the Purusha. And this is a simple definition. It says, Patre tyagi, gune ragi, bhogi parijanay saha, shastre bodha, rane yodha, purushaha panch lakshana. There are 5 characteristics of the Purusha: that he gives alms or does charity for the people who deserve it. He is inclined towards good deeds. He enjoys the company of near and dear ones, which means that he does not enjoy things alone. He is not selfish. He possesses knowledge, and he is valiant in battle so that he can defend himself, his interests, and the interests of the people around him. So that is Purusha, and that is supposed to be a good Purusha, the person who is among the good Purusha. There can be Purusha who can do bad karma also. Bad karma can give you bad results, but this is the ideal Purusha who has these 5 characteristics. Next, please. Now, we know that karma manufactures destiny. Paurush or Purushartha. These are 2 words, they mean the same thing. Paurush means the karma of the Purusha. Purushartha also means the karma of the Purusha. So a Purusha performs a Purushartha, that is, he does a karma and produces the karma phal or the fruit of. Destiny results from the Purushartha of past lives. You see, your horoscope basically shows you your limitations. It shows you the Purushartha of your past lives, the result of Purushartha of your past life. And whatever good or adverse karmas we have done, virtuous karmas which are sanctioned by the scriptures, sinful which are without scriptural sanction, these karmas are indicated in the horoscope, and that is what we call as destiny. That is the result that we are going to suffer or enjoy. Next. Now, when you have this concept of cause and effect phenomena in operation, then the very fact that individual destinies are different for different people, and we believe that the destiny is produced by our karmas. So obviously these karmas have come from past lives. So that is basically a point that emphasizes the existence of this concept of reincarnation. I have mentioned there, karmas of present life seldom justify our fate. My point here is that whatever we do in this life, that very often does not justify all that we get in this lifetime. So they do not justify our fate during this lifetime. So there is something more to it, either good or bad. So our own lifetime karma, this karmas, present karmas, they don't give you you are getting results different from what the karmas you are doing. So that means that there is some other karma in the past life that you have done, and that is giving you your destiny during your present lifetime. The circumstances of our birth itself are dependent on our fate. They are also not under our control. We don't choose our parents, we don't choose our siblings. So it has to be the result of some past karma. You cannot blame God only for it, because God cannot be so unjust that he creates some good people, some bad people, some poor people, and some prosperous people. So it has to be our own doing, and that is because there is an existence of this process of birth and rebirth. So different people having different destinies indicates that there are different karmas they have done in the past lives, and this reincarnation concept, which some people doubt, we firmly believe that this is a very strong fact, and this past karmas determine what we are today. Can we go next? Now, what do we do in this lifetime? We go on struggling, we keep working to achieve certain ends, and if there are some difficulties, we try to overcome them, and those difficulties are coming from the past. We are overcoming by our efforts in this present lifetime. So the Purusha means the activity of the Purusha, the karma of the individual, the past karma of the individual, and the present karma, they are in constant combat. We are trying to overcome the past karmas and improve upon them. And the Purusha, the karma of present life can overcome the Purusha of the past life. So to some extent, whatever negative things we have done in the past, we can overcome them also by our efforts. Pap karmas, adverse karmas, wrong karmas, sinful karmas that we do, if we do them knowingly, suffering is the result. If we do them knowingly but propitiate for them, good and bad results are obtained. Unknowingly also we do so many karmas. We even while we are eating, we are killing so many germs, and we are killing life forms. So that is the karma which we do unknowingly. That can be neutralized also. So all karmas, even with your best intentions, you may not be able to do purely right karma, but your intentions need to be all right, and even the pap karmas can be overcome by our constant effort. Now there are 4 types of karmas, 4 types of Purushartha, and we have this thing in astrology, you all know this, that Dharma, Arth, Kam, and Moksha. These are the 4 Purusharthas. These are the 4 sorts of functions that we perform, and you all know this. Dharma means doing good things, right things, virtuous things. Arth, let us go to the next one. Saurabh. In astrology, Dharma doesn't mean religion actually. Dharma, there is no equivalent word for Dharma. Dharma is basically the right duty that has been allotted to you by your circumstances, by your ambience, and everything else. And this Dharma for different people also varies differently. It is different for different people. And we consider houses 1, 5, and 9 as the Dharma houses in the horoscope. And these are the houses for being engaged in pious and religious actions. So all good deeds from the 1, 5, 9 houses. Then material pursuits are also our aim. Those are the Artha houses, houses 2, 6, and 10. And for material possessions, second house, we know our wealth. 6th is your struggle, 10th is your karma. So all these houses are important for your material pursuits. Then Kama, which means desires, passions, sexual engagements, from houses 3, 7, and 11. and moksha houses for liberation. These are houses 4, 8, and 12. They are for detachment, for spiritual pursuits. And individually also, we all do these karmas. But in the normal system that we have had, social system, which probably is crumbling to some extent right now, there was a period of study for the individual, then marriage as a householder, and then of course the spiritual and non-material things. That was moksha, for moksha. So the first three activities, dharma, artha, and kama, for the householder, the husband and the wife do it together. Dharma, artha, and kama, all these three activities, they are meant for the householder to be done by both the husband and the wife. As far as the moksha is concerned, this is an individual thing. You have to do it yourself. So there, other persons are not involved, no other person. It is your individual effort. And we get some questions, not in India, but in USA, I have had some people showing the charts. And some people, not my age, maybe slightly younger, but talking about his new affair with somebody who's in her teens, and trying to get a prediction from you. And then after that, he would say, do you see moksha in my horoscope? So you don't have moksha when you have karma and other things going on simultaneously. So for the moksha, I think you have to be alone. It is your solitary effort, and you have to do it. Next. Same thing, all karma, virtuous or sinful, must generate effect. Horoscopes, a horoscope represents limitations. I've told you this. A horoscope is an indication of your limitations. You can only do this much and not more than that. And it also shows your potentials, your capacity for free will. And free will also is, as I told you, limited by our past destiny, because destiny creates some limitations which may not allow you to exercise your free will fully. So therefore, you may have a limited capacity for free will, but then still the capacity is there. Karma phal limits the scope of free will. So karma phal is a binding force, and it tends to keep you in check. The important point is that we need to identify our weaknesses and identify our strengths, and use our strengths to overcome the weaknesses. And that is the way we can go for what I have said earlier as the human evolution. For evolution, you must continuously put in effort. Next one. Now there are three factors, three forces which are there in nature. And you all have heard about this. Sattva, Rajas, and Tamas. Sattvam Rajastam iti gunaha prakriti sambhavaha nibadananti mahabaho dehe dehenam aviyam. This is Lord Krishna talking to Arjuna. He says that there are three factors of Sattva, Rajas, and Tama. These can be called as balance, passion, and darkness, equilibrium, activity, inertness, Sattva is something which is good, which is noble, and Rajas is something which is not positive. It is energy, it is passion, but then it makes you work. So most of the work that is done in the world is because there is this Rajas, because Sattva is an equilibrium. So there is no movement, and Rajas is the one that makes things go, but it has all its positive and negative factors. And Tamas is the negative thing, the inertness, the darkness, and all these three factors are present in everybody in different measure. And also they go on varying with time and also with the dashas that we are going through. So these are the three factors which bind the individual soul to the body. Individual soul is a part of the universal soul. Like the universal soul, individual soul is not perishable, but it is sheathed by the coverings, the physical and the mental and the other coverings, so that this is imprisoned. And the main purpose of karma is to remove these sheets, remove these coverings of ignorance over this individual soul, so that it is freed from its imprisonment, and it is free to mix with the universal soul. Next one. Right karma. Now, what is the right karma? That is, we have to decide. And the ideal right karma would be a karma which does not generate a binding karma phal for us, because karma tends to enslave us. And our desire is to do karma which is not binding but freeing. It should be a karma which frees us from our bindings, not the one that binds it. So that is the concept of karma yoga, to do karma which removes our limitations, removes our bindings and makes us free. And ultimate freedom would be when the past karmas and its karma phala are totally exhausted, and you don't generate any new karma and new karma phala. And when all that is exhausted, then the individual soul in the body is free to mingle with the universal soul, and that is called moksha. So moksha is not just because you are indulging in one thing on the on the lower plane, and then you are going to the highest plane, and the two don't coexist. There has to be the proper pursuit, proper evolution, and then only you can go on to moksha. Now, this right karma also differs it is different for different people. The same situation, different people behave differently, and they are right in their own self. In the battle of Mahabharata, it was a battle between the Pandavas and the Kauravas. We know that the Pandavas were supposed to be good people, Kauravas supposed to be wicked people, and there was a fight between good and bad. And therefore, if you think superficially, it is very simple to take sides. Let us go to the side of the right people. Bhishma Pitama, the grandsire, he was probably the most prominent warrior of that time, never had any defeat anywhere. And he was with the king, with Duryodhana, the Kauravas. So he said, my duty lies with the king. So he went with the king. Knowing that the Pandavas are the right people, he had all sympathy for them. In fact, he said, I would not kill any of them, any of the 5 brothers. But he went against them, fought against them, because he thought it was his dharma to fight on the side of the emperor. So did Dronacharya, the teacher who had taught Duryodhana and the Pandavas, himself. And he also liked the Pandavas, but he did not go with the Pandavas. He fought for the Kauravas. Lord Krishna, who was with the Pandavas, he said, no, I'm not going to fight. I'll not pick up the weapon. I can be on one side and my army on the other side, but fight I will not. So he thought he should not fight. He would only be a neutral observer, and that's it. His own elder brother, he had taught Bhima and Duryodhana this Gada Yudh, the fight with the mace. And he liked Duryodhana very much, but he said, no, it is a fight between family members, and whether this side wins or that side wins, it is adharma, it is bad. I am going to go away. So he went on pilgrimage. He did not participate in the fight. There was a king called Shalya. Shalya was the commander-in-chief of the Kaurava army on the last day, 18th day of battle. He was the maternal uncle of the two junior Pandavas. So he had the biggest army at that time. So he was coming to fight on the side of the Pandavas. And this big army, it was said that when this army moved, even the earth moved under it. There was a movement in the earth. And what happened was that right from the border where he entered this area of the kingdom, there were people to welcome him and treat him very well, and offer him gifts and so on. And next stop, and then again there were people who offered him very respects and presents and everything. Then third stop, fourth stop, he was welcomed so much, and he thought that Yudhishthira was probably doing it. Actually, it was Duryodhana who was doing it. So the Kauravas were doing it for him so that they wanted him to fight on their side. And this man ultimately fought on their side because he was, under their under their favor. So he didn't fight on the side of the Pandavas. And another person, Rukmi. Rukmi was the brother of Lord Krishna's wife, Rukmini. So Rukmi was at one time, against Lord Krishna, but he thought this was a good time to make up. So he came to the Pandavas and he told Yudhishthira that, he would like to fight on their side and ensure that they win. They said, listen, if you want to fight on our side, fine. But win or no win, don't bother. We are able to manage ourselves. So he thought he was humiliated, so he went to Duryodhana. He said, I want to fight you on your side because they have rejected me. So Duryodhana said, we are not in such a plight yet that we should accept people who are rejected by them. So he didn't fight. So everybody had a definite reason either to participate in the war or not to participate in the war. They were all doing what was right for them. That was their dharma. So dharma is a concept which is not a fixed concept. You have certain duties which come to you, you must perform them. And you must perform them well. There is no strict rule that if you do this, then you are following the. There are some rules also. In general, if you don't injure anybody, that is supposed to be good dharma, that is supposed to be good. If you injure somebody, that is supposed to be bad. But then otherwise, when you go deeper, then every individual has his own dharma and he has to follow it. This is the one. Have we done this? Yeah. Next one. This is an oft-quoted shloka from Gita. Karmanyevadhikaraste ma phaleshu kadachana ma karma fir hetur bhuv mate songosu karmani. To karma alone have a right and never to its fruits. So do the right karma and that is all, and forget about what it is going to give you. Let not the fruits of action be thy motive, neither let there be in thee any attachment to inaction, which means that action you must do. You see, when you perform karma, some karma phal is generated. So you might say, no, I'm not going to do any karma. So that no karma phal is generated so that I'll get some moksha. That is not there. The main thing is that you must do the karma and incessantly. But do not bother about the fruits of it. And that should not be your motive. Go ahead, keep doing it, and do not fall prey to inaction. And karma which is done with detachment, it does not generate karma phal. Karma phal is the result of your desire for fruits of action. If you don't desire the fruits of action, then you are not bound by it. The karma you do for the sake of karma, work you do for the sake of work, and not for the results that it will generate. And if you do that sort of karma, that will lead to detachment. And detachment ultimately leads to freedom, because when we expect something, then only there are problems. If we don't expect a result and things go on happening the way they do, they don't bind you. And as I said earlier also, there is no karma which is perfectly true. Karma, any karma that you do, you will not be able to do a perfectly pure karma. So good and bad things will continue, but your aim should be that you are doing the right karma. If in the process there is a negative karma, if your eating kills some bacteria, it doesn't matter, because you have to live and you have to, it is your karma to take care of your life. So therefore, the negative karmas will also be there whenever you're doing a good karma. But if you are not attached to the results of the karma, the good and the bad actions, they will not stick to you and you will not be bound by them. There will be freedom, and non-attachment is one of the biggest things that you can acquire. And non-attachment comes with self-abnegation, where you don't give importance to yourself. And all our classics, they have black and white language. Even in astrology, we either get a Raj Yoga or we get a Daridra Yoga and nothing in between. Similarly, when we talk of virtue and things, the classics give you examples which are extremes. So there is a very beautiful story in the Mahabharata about this total detachment and self-abnegation. This, after the Mahabharata war, the Pandavas conducted a grand sacrifice known as Ashwamedha Yajna. And Ashwamedha Yajna was done with great pomp and show, and it was said that such grandeur was not seen even in the yajnas done by the gods. So it was a great yajna. And suddenly, in the middle of the discussion that was going on, and at the site of the yajna, there came a weasel, a mongoose. You know a mongoose or a weasel? Yeah, it came and started dancing there and in the dust and ash that was there from the yajna. So it turned over and over and over, and then laughed loud like a human being. And all these people around, they thought that it was a bad sign. So what was wrong there? So they asked him what was the reason for it. He said, this yajna, I don't think this is very important. It's not very great. And he had half his body turned into gold. He said, I was expecting that there will be something great about this yajna and my body would be turned into gold. But, it is no good. And he said there was a small sacrifice which was made by a very poor Brahmana who was there, who was a householder. And that was a much bigger sacrifice than this one. And then he told the story. There was a poor Brahmana couple. They had a son, they had a daughter-in-law, and they used to collect alms and then, live by the alms, or, pick up food grains from the fields and, grind them, make some flour, and then eat and live by that. But they didn't store anything for future. So once there was a famine and there was nothing there to eat, and for several days, all these four people were hungry and starving. And one day, they got some maize and some maize flour, and they divided it into 4 parts to eat. And then suddenly a guest appeared, somebody who said, "I am very hungry." So the Brahmana gave his share to him. He said, "Okay, guest is like God only, so you have come at the right time. We still have something." So he offered his share. But after eating this man said, "I'm still hungry." Then the Brahmana's wife, she said, "It is my duty to, do the same dharma. This is my dharma to do what my husband wanted to fulfill, but he could not. So I must give my share." So she gave her share also. The man remained hungry still. So then his son came. The father said, "No, it is my duty to look after you." But then the son said, No, it is the son's duty to do what the father could not completely complete. So therefore, he also gave his share. And then the daughter-in-law. So, and after that, this man was satisfied, and suddenly he disappeared. And these 4 people, they died at the same day, died of hunger. And then, of course, the story goes that they were taken to the higher regions immediately and so on. This was the sacrifice they did. And this mongoose said that there was some maize flour which was, scattered on the floor. And I went there, I turned around. It was so small that part of my body turned into gold. So the rest of me, I was, waiting for some great sacrifice, but then even this sacrifice does not match that sacrifice. So that is the extent of self-abnegation, which is prescribed by the scriptures. And the ultimate result of that is absolutely great, because the physical body is not the most important thing. Physical body must be maintained. Physical body is important because if you want to do any great karma and good karma, you need a physical body. But physical body is not the supreme thing. This is just a vehicle, and it must be considered as a vehicle. Can we go further? Right. Then nahi kaschit khilamapi jatu tishtatya karmakrit karyate hi vasha karma sarvah prakritir jargunai, which means that all the time, even if you want that you don't want to do any karma, you cannot do that. Karma goes on. You have to perform karma. You cannot live without karma for even a moment. For no one can remain even for a moment without doing karma. Everyone is made to act helplessly by the impulses of nature, and therefore the karma must go on. You cannot stop karma. Yoga Vasishta, Vasishta is a sage, and he says, even as the flower and its fragrance take origin from the tree simultaneously, so also the Purusha and his karma arising from the Brahma in the beginning of this manifest universe, they are separate. So Purusha and Purushartha, man and his karma, they are inseparable. They are like the flower and its fragrance, and you cannot have one without the other. Please, certainly.
Is that when it's exhausted?
You see, the karma that you've done the results of that have to be gone through. But you don't generate future karma future karma phal. For that, this is the way. And you see, some people say, okay, if I do something bad, immediately something bad happens to me. And there are other people, they go on doing things, but they don't suffer. I would consider the people who get bad results immediately as very fortunate, because they get the result of their karma immediately, and that is over. Otherwise, you keep on adding that, and then at some future date, you would get them. So that is the essence of it. The point is that the past karmas you have to go through. Some of them you can neutralize with your present karma, and you don't generate further karma which generates karma phal. That is the aim. So anything that you do in future, do not do in such a manner that it produces karma phal, so that it doesn't bind you, it keeps you free. नियतम कुरु कर्म त्वम कर्म जाय है कर्मण है शरीर यात्रा पीछते न प्रसिद्ध येदा कर्मण है. He says, do your allotted work. Now, what is this allotted work? And because action is better than inaction, and even the maintenance of your body cannot be effected without action. Even to survive, you need action. So do the right action, and the right action is the one that does not generate karma. The prescription is to work incessantly, and incessantly, not like a slave. Do work as a free man, because the person who looks for results, he is the person who grumbles the most, because he is expecting something. But if you do some work for which you don't expect a result, and let the result come as it does, because by nature also there will be some result. So that is the way to freedom. Otherwise, you will keep grumbling, and when you are grumbling, you are basically working like a slave. So slavery is not the aim. The aim is freedom. And freedom comes only when you detach yourself from the fruits of action. And even in our homes, in our daily life, we expect things from our friends, we expect things from our children, from our spouse, and so on. And when something doesn't happen, then we feel uncomfortable, upset. That is not the right karma. The right karma is that you do your best, you do whatever is being done. If you want to rectify something, that is very good. Provide them physical help, provide them intellectual help, provide them spiritual help, so that they improve. But if they don't do things as you want, then you are basically enslaving them, or you are becoming their slave. You see, I can't live without you. I will die without you. That means that I am your slave. You can't live without me. Then you are my slave. So what we are doing is that we are enslaving each other, and we expect others also, to become slaves. There is no freedom. For example, God also loves us, but then he doesn't have attachment. He does not expect a result from us. We abuse him also, he still loves us. So love should not be a binding thing. Love should not be the cause of our binding. Love should not be a thing which imprisons us. So there should be freedom and allotted work. What is the duty? What duty has come to you as your lot? That is important. And again, in the Mahabharata, there is a story that there was a sage called Kaushik. He was sitting under a banyan tree, and he was indulging in his penance. And there was a crane sitting up, and this crane defiled his head with his droppings. And this man was very upset. He was very angry, and he looked at the crane, and the crane, just burnt into ashes and fell down dead. This touched him very badly. He thought that this is, if every desire was fulfilled, so then, so much, there will be so much sin and so much to regret for. So he was very sorry for the bird, but then of course he continued and, continued with his austerities and so on. Then, as usual, he went to beg for his food, because these people, it is the duty of the householder to sustain people who don't work. So these sadhus, brahmacharis, rishis, they used to go to the people, get some food, and they had their own discipline. For example, go to the first house, if they didn't get it, then come back and stay hungry. So these sorts of things they used to follow. So he went there, and the lady of the house was there. She greeted him, but then suddenly her husband also came in, and she started looking after him, because it was in the evening, and the husband had, been tired. So she looked after him, she fed him, and then after that she came and he said, "I'm sorry, but my husband came over and I had to do this." So he said, "That is fine, you are doing your work, but you should not ignore an exalted man like me." She said, "Don't get angry, I'm sorry for it, but please have these alms, and thank you so much, and sorry I am." He said, "No, but you should not do this." She said, "Listen, I am no crane. So that's all right, but you need to go to somebody who should teach you something." He said, "Go to Mithila." Mithila was a town those days. And go there, and there is somebody, the name they have given as Dharma Vyad. Vyad is Dharma means Dharma, but Vyada means somebody who's a butcher. He said, "Go to that town and meet that man, and he'll teach you something." So he went there, and he thought that this man must be sitting somewhere in a hut and, doing some austerity, following some austerities or something like that. But then he found him in a busy market where he was having a butcher's shop and selling meat. So for some time he was dumbfounded. But the butcher looked at him. He said, "Oh, come here, sir. You have been sent by the lady, so please wait here, and we'll go home together." So he was again surprised that he knew that the lady had sent him there. So he waited there, then he went to his house. And in the house also, this man went, and he had his aging parents. So he looked after them and did whatever duty was there, and then he looked after the sadhu. And of course, he ultimately taught him many things, and this forms a section in the Mahabharata known as Vyada Gita. So he taught some very profound principles of Dharma, and he said that duty is supreme. Duty you must do. The duty that is prescribed to you, that you must follow. And then this man went home, and he himself looked after his own parents, a duty which he had forgotten. So duty that your lot has given you, whatever has fallen as your lot, you must follow that. You must do that well, even without attachment. And that is the right thing that you do. In the Mahabharata war, before the war started, Lord Krishna went to see Karna. If you have heard of Karna, he was the warrior. You know the story. He was fighting on the side of the Pandavas, on the Kauravas. And in fact, he was the elder brother of the Pandavas, because the mother was the same, Kunti. He was the son of Kunti only, but he was on the other side. So Lord Krishna went to persuade him to give up the side of Duryodhana and fight on the side of the Pandavas, who were his own younger brothers. And Krishna said, "Yudhishthira, when he comes to know that you are the eldest, he would immediately give up his claim to the throne and appoint you as the king. So come over. What you are getting here is much more, on the other side you are getting much more. So why don't you quit here? He said, no, I have promised my friend, and it is my duty to fight on this side. And then he quotes a very very deep astrological principle. He says that the malefic Saturn is going through Rohini, and it is tormenting Rohini. Rohini is the, the Rohini nakshatra, and Prajapati is the lord of Rohini. And when Prajapati means Lord Brahma, when Prajapati is afflicted, obviously the people on the earth will also be afflicted. So Saturn is going through Rohini, afflicting the nakshatra of Prajapati. So that is a bad time for the friends of the king. And then he says, Mars is retrograde in Jyeshtha, and it is trying to come into Anuradha. And that adds to the miseries of the king. And more so because Ketu, he uses the term Mahapath. Some people translate it as Ketu. It is afflicting the nakshatra Chitra. So he says, when all these things are happening, the king has to fall, kingdom has to fall, king has to suffer, and I am fighting on the losing side. But this is my duty. So I must stay on this side. So that is the way you do your duty. You know the results, even the result is adverse, but then you don't stop. You stick with your duty without attachment, and that is the duty, that is the karma, which does not generate any ill results. And therefore, Niyatam Kuru Karmtvam, do your allotted work and do it with all your life in it for the time. If you're doing some duty, do it with all passion, put all your life in it for the time being till that action is completed. And that is the prescription of the scriptures. Next one. We are all looking for freedom. Everything, all that we do, every action that we do, we want to change our present condition. You see, if we are studying, we are looking for a good job. If we are doing a good job, we want to earn more. If we earn more, we want to possess some more things. So we are all the time constantly changing, doing some action with some karma phala in mind, and we are looking for something better and better and better. And that is because we want freedom from our present state. So according to our understanding, wherever we are looking for freedom. Even the galaxies are moving away from each other. The planets are struggling for freedom from the sun. If you don't have, you see, it is the centripetal force that holds them. Otherwise, the earth would go far away from the sun. The moon will go away from the earth. They are every particle. Look at the electron, which is bound. You see, a circle is if you are moving in a circle, you are bound. You are not free. And you are going around because you want freedom. So everything, every particle in all combinations tries to go its own way, though others hold it back. That is a different thing, because our karmas, past karmas hold us, but we are trying to go away. The saint prays for freedom from bondage. A robber also robs because he wants to improve his condition. He wants freedom from whatever state he is in. Everything, whether living or lifeless, is struggling toward freedom. So we are all the time actually trying to be free, and that process continues till we learn the actual technique of becoming free. Because a robber robs, but he does not free himself from the bindings, because then he gets into more bindings and then he goes on. But he doesn't know that. So the point is for the person to know the essence of karma and the essence of karma phal, and do the karma as a duty and not as a compulsion, because then it will not be freedom, it will be a work of slavery. And even if you don't do any work, that also is action. That is a negative action, but that is an action. Next one, please. Okay. The restraining factors remain operative in all situations. Continuous effort required to overcome restraining factors. Degenerate is the man who desires no change in his present state. A person who says, oh, well, I am, retired, I have had a good life, I have enough of money, my children are doing fine, they are married, I have grandchildren also, and I have a house and I have property and I have vehicles, so therefore I don't need anything more. No, that is a person which the scripture says is a degenerate man, because he is satisfied with a very mundane sort of situation, and he does not want any spiritual elevation. He does not want to get rid of his karmas, because these things will change anytime. You see, when you are having some good time, you are basically consuming your past good karmas. So once you are finished with that, then the past bad karmas will also catch up. So one has to continuously make an effort to improve things, because if you don't need any change, then there is something very wrong with you. The only way out is incessant work with no attachment to work, which is called as vairagya, dispassion, non-attachment. And Swami Paramahansa Yogananda, he says, actively calm and calmly active. So that is the key. Be actively calm and calmly active. Next one. Turning away from action by fools due to perversity or ignorance amounts to action. So if you turn away from action also, that is not inaction, that is not something which will not generate its results. It amounts to action only. Panchaitani mahabaho karnani nibodhame sankhya kritante proktani siddhaye sarvakarmanam. Lord Krishna tells Arjuna, there are 5 factors which are important for the accomplishment of all actions, as stated in the Vedantic philosophy, Sankhya philosophy, and they are, next one, Adhishthanam tatha karta karnam cha prithak vidham vividhascha prithak cheshta daivam chaivatra panchamam. The very basis of action, that is one factor. The doer, the person who has to do it, that is the second factor. The instruments of various sorts which you employ to complete an action. The many kinds of different efforts and action plans to accomplish an action. These are all right. These are under your control. You plan things, you do things the way you want. But there's a 5th factor, providence or destiny, Daiva. You see, astrologer is called as Daivagya, one who is familiar with Daiva. Daiva is your destiny, providence. So this 5th factor, 4 factors are under your control. So you're doing something, but then there's a 5th factor, which is important and which ultimately determines whether you will succeed or you won't. So whatever karma you do, your past karmas will act as a restraining factor there, and that is Daiva, that is your destiny. So this important factor is also there, and this is the factor that we deal with in astrology.
The 5th factor being moksha?
Daiva is destiny.
Oh, okay.
Destiny.
Because you had said, artha, dharma. I thought those were the 5.
No. 5 factors for the accomplishment of something that you undertake to do. You undertake a work, so you plan things, you do put in your effort, you put in the plans, you make all sorts of arrangements, and then all that is fine because that is within your control. You do that, but the fifth factor is dive, which decides whether you will be successful or you will not.
Thank you.
Okay, there are three main types of karma. One is known as the Sanchit karma. Sanchit karma, we have a very, very big bank balance of karma. All those thousands and hundreds of thousands of lifetimes, we have collected karma, and that is a binding force. That total karma of past lives is known as the Sanchit karma. So, but whatever we are doing today, we are adding to that Sanchit karma. And out of that Sanchit karma, a portion is allotted to you for a particular lifetime. What is the rule there? We don't know. But a part of it is allotted as prarabdha karma, the amount of karma which is allotted to you to be enjoyed or suffered in this particular lifetime. And this, when you go through the karma phala, you are basically neutralizing it. It is a different matter whether you add to this burden or you decrease the burden. Because if you go on generating more karma with karma phala, then you are increasing your burden. And if you are doing further karma with detachment, without attachment to its results, then you are reducing your burden. And this prarabdha is your destiny. That is what you have come with. And kriyaman karma is the karma which we are indulging in right now. This is, based on our destiny plus our free, because destiny is a controlling factor. We can only jump so much and no more. So within those limits, when we exercise our free will, then we start decreasing this burden. So these are the three main types of karma that we are, doing. And next one. Then three types of karma, actually two types, but Vinay Aditya added a third type. So I said, let us call it three types. One is drida karma. Drida karma, which means that its results are inevitable. You cannot escape. You have to go through the results. Drida karma. It is fixed. Its results are inevitable. You cannot neutralize it. And adhrida. Adhrida means a karma that can be neutralized. You can put in some efforts and neutralize it. Then drida means that you can partially neutralize it. It can be modified. But drida, you cannot neutralize. You have to suffer it. And adhrida karma, which can be neutralized. Next one. Horoscope. This horoscope, unfortunately, I have shown many people many times, and so some people might remember this horoscope here, some of you. And this is the horoscope where you have Sinha Lagna. Sinha Lagna, 22 degrees, and Saturn retrograde 22 degrees, 6th Lord, 7th Lord on the Lagna. And the other planets, whatever, but then you have Moon and Venus in the 6th, which is, you can call it as a Balarishta also. The point is that this man, when he started his Saturn-Venus Dasha, so we had an astrology student who was his wife. He said, your Dasha is not all right, go to the doctor, get yourself checked up. So he went there and nothing was found amiss. So he came back. Then she said, no, there is something wrong. Go back to the doctor. So almost 2 months later, he went to the doctor again and nothing was found wrong. So he came back. He said, no, there's nothing there. And another 2 or 3 months later, he was found to have a cancer of the stomach. And by this time, the cancer had grown to the extent that it was unresectable. inoperable. This is the sort of Drida karma. You made your effort also. And but this Saturn 6 Lord exactly on the Lagna retrograde, it has to give its results. So Saturn, and then of course there are other things also in the horoscope, not just one factor, because there may be many people with this sort of situation also, and other divisional charts would be different. But the point is that when you have a strong adverse combination in the horoscope, then its dasha comes, your efforts become fruitless, because even despite the warning, this was not treated in time. Probably if it was treated in time, it could have been resected and the person would have been all right. But that is how things are. And of course, my own profession people, general, medical people, if you tell them something, well, astrologically it is bad, so please have a look, they don't see things seriously because they think this is all rubbish. So there are very few doctors who are really doing astrology, and I want more and more of them doing it, because then we'll be doing some good to the people. But this is how the Drida karma is, the karma that you cannot neutralize. Next one. Yes, please.
Okay, in this case, if the person would do some upayas, like for a shani or for a six bhava, so on, could it be changed, this dridha karma?
Actually, when it was found that the problem is, the cancer is unresectable, we cannot do anything, then the upayas were done. But please see that upayas are not a replacement for a standard recognized scientific treatment. So a standard recognized scientific treatment must be done, plus the upayas. Upayas can make things easy. Upayas might reduce your pain, but please don't refuse the standard scientific treatment to a person who comes to you. So that treatment must be prescribed.
If it would be combined?
Combine it, fine, because the upaya does not do any harm. But you can't substitute a well-recognized scientific discipline. If you consider astrology as a science, you cannot deny the same status to another science. So you have to accept that.
The thing I mean is like this dridha karma, if you do something, like, okay, dridha karma, if we see the horoscope and we dridha karma, okay, there will be cancer of stomach done. But if, for example, this person would come like 20 years of age, would come to astrologer, and she would say that you will have a cancer of stomach at that age. If he or she would have done like upayas for those years, and also then treatment and so on, would it change from a dridha karma to adridha karma? Or
you see, there are so many ifs there.
Yeah, sure.
If you have so many ifs, if the cancer does not develop, the person is all right. You see, so ifs are too many, but these are the ones which limit us, because there are many other instances also. I have many where foreknowledge did not help. There are circumstances where foreknowledge did not help, because the disposition of the planets was such in the horoscope that foreknowledge did not help. So we see many examples of that. Despite that, it is our duty to do all sort of effort and try to relieve suffering even at this stage, So our efforts should go on, but then we have to recognize the destiny also. And about the past karmas, can we go? Okay. Astrology Astrology serves basically the ultimate knowledge and the worldly knowledge. Astrology serves as a bridge between the two. And can we go to the next one? Astrology is for human evolution, identifies limitations, identifies the strengths, and then of course, on that basis, you can guide the native to perform the right action at right time. Helps attain an attitude of detachment, and with detachment comes freedom from suffering. Next one, please. About past life. This principle is mentioned, I think, in Brihajatak, that on the basis of the Drekana Lord of the sun or the moon, whichever is powerful, sun or moon, whichever is powerful, the Drekana Lord of that will decide where the person was in his previous life. So if it is Jupiter, he comes from the world of gods, higher up, Devalok. If it is moon or Venus, the person comes from the domain of ancestors, Pitris, Pitar, as we call them. If it is Sun or Mars, he comes from the mortals. He was in the world only. And if it is Saturn or Mercury, then the lower regions. So that is what happens when the Drekana Lord of the sun or the moon is one of these. Can we go to the next? And the stature of the person in past life. Again, Drekana Lord of the sun or the moon, whichever is stronger. If it is exalted, he had a high status. If it is other than exalted or debilitated, he had a mediocre status. And if there is a debilitated Lord of these, then a low status. Can we go to the previous one? No, next. Yes. Just remember this. Jupiter, higher regions, Moon, Venus, the world of ancestors, Sun and Mars, this world, and Saturn or Mercury, the lower world. And now we go to the next one, the horoscope. Now here is this horoscope, and we know about his past birth. Okay? We know about his past birth. Drekana Lord of the sun or the moon, whoever is stronger. So moon is in Aries and sun is in its own house. So which one is stronger? Either of them you might consider. Sun is stronger. And who is the Drekana Lord of the? That is also the sun. Lord of the sun is also sun. And we have said that Sun or Mars, the person comes from the mortal world, same world. Okay. This is a man. He is now, born in 56, so you can see he is already 66, 65, 66. He remembers his past birth. His was the most widely reported case when he was 8 or 10 years. It was published around here and there. A professor from Virginia University, parapsychology professor from Virginia University, Ian Stevenson, he went to India and he met him and traced his previous place of birth and place of his work. And he has written many books on this reincarnation, but one of the books is Cases of the Reincarnation Type, 10 cases in India. And his is the first case discussed in that book. And this man, in his previous life, was mayor of Mathura. Mathura is another town not very far from Delhi. And he was a mayor of that town, and he was murdered by his younger brother. And then he was born in Delhi, and he remembered his birth. So fortunately, I have this horoscope and we can match that at least. If we were from any other world, from Devlok or Pitrilok or anything, we didn't have any way to confirm it. But this, at least, we have a chart here, and this is what it shows. So I hope it was all right. You now deserve a cup of tea, I think. But if there is any question before that, please.
So I do have one quick question, Dr. Charak.
Yeah.
So if somebody had a Dracana Lord as a Jupiter or Moon or Venus, that means they in the previous birth they were in the Pitraloka or in the Devaloka.
That is what the
That's what the
classic
text says.
says.
So
But
in
then
some
we will not
sense-
have any way to confirm it.
But then in some sense they were demoted,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
And if it was Saturn,
Yeah,
then they were
upliftment.
uplifted, right? So okay.
Add to something you said. Apparently, there's a statement from Hippocrates. A doctor without knowledge of astrology cannot call himself a doctor.
You see, in India, these Ayurvedic people, they all had knowledge of astrology. They used to employ it. So we have lost that. This one is Brihajatak. Varamir. This is principle about Drekana lords and past birth. Brihajatak. Varamir. Yeah, please. You have not got the printouts? Yeah, it's there. Okay.
All right. Thanks, everyone. The next session will start at 11 o'clock for VP Goelji.
And this is Adya Tripathi. Can I ask one quick question from Dr. Charak? Okay. Yeah.